numbers flying. Josh Thomas! Yes! Oh, yes!
Hello, I'm Damian Barrett. Welcome to Access All Areas, brought to you by Sportsbet. The race for the last two finals spots is heating up, and the Swans, well, they've got their eyes on a finals double chance after a dramatic series of matches in round 17. Matthew Lloyd, as always, is with me. And Lloydie, the Sydney Swans were brilliant against the Dogs.
Oh, they've put in two phenomenal weeks of football. That game against the West Coast Eagles last week was huge, and then they've stepped it up again against the Western Bulldogs. And we want to highlight the pressure they put on the Dogs. You can't allow the Dogs time and space, and they beat them at their own game yesterday, the Swans. Their pressure was huge, and then when they got the ball out in the open spaces, they just destroyed the Western Bulldogs. And some of this, no Aaron Norton and Tom McCartan just exposed them in the air. It was guys like Jamarra Ugle-Hagan and Waitman and Bruce flying for marks where they don't have the presence of Aaron Norton. So this pressure was outstanding from the Swans.
Look, they've beaten three of the four teams immediately around them and above them on the ladder. They've also lost to Melbourne by only 9 points. So this is a genuine premiership tilt.
Well, it's about your form from this point on. It's not about what went on in the first 12 or 13 weeks. It's who can fire from this point, and that's what the Swans are doing. Yeah, we're still got to see because teams are having highs and lows throughout a season, but the pressure they put on the Dogs to allow for long high balls like this and for their defence to stand tall was just brilliant yesterday.
Maybe a secret on the main competition, Jordan Dawson, but he's not a secret inside the Swans' workings, and we're getting to see it this year, aren't we?
His game was brilliant yesterday, and I think one of the aspects of where the Swans are so strong is their foot skills. Their foot skills yesterday were as elite as any team in the comp, and it's because of a guy like Jordan Dawson. We wanted to highlight this. So he spoils the ball in defence. He's gone from a defender to a wingman. So he spoils the ball, gets the hands out, and just the work rate of him.
And this is the same play. He's already spoiled and handballed to clear the ball.
Where he's so smart is he doesn't get caught in where all the numbers are. He keeps his width really well as a wingman, and he doesn't get drawn to the ball. He holds out. He sees we've got enough numbers around the ball. We've got enough numbers around the contest. I'm going to sit out and see whether I can be released. And you don't leave Jordan Dawson free because he's one of the best kicks in the game. One of the best kicks in the game, and he just doesn't waste it. He rarely misses, and he put the Dogs to the sword yesterday. He got 26 disposals, 3 goals. In his last 3 weeks since the bye has been 25 disposals, and 26 and 3 goals.
Yep.
So he might have to be sat on very shortly.
The win came with only 1 goal between both Tom Papley and Buddy Franklin, which is an amazing effort to think they can still control that game the way they did. McCartan is controlling the play down back. They've now got the midfield that has been bolstered by people like Dawson, working with Parker and Kennedy. I really like what we're seeing, Lordo. They're in the conversation for premiership.
Yeah, they're a young and hungry side with a great blend of experience as well. And you spoke about Tom McCartan. Well, yeah, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan had a tough first initiation to AFL football because he was on the likes of Tom McCartan. So he had an almost day. So he had 6 or 7 touches. Moments like this would have been huge for him if he could have kicked the goal early. Laid a couple of big tackles, but a lot like most guys' first games. Damo, he looked off the pace a little bit, but he'll be better.
He's created that goal there for Daniel, hasn't he? He brought the ball to ground.
I think Norton comes back in and Ugle-Hagan will probably lose his spot, but I heard Beveridge after the game say we lack chemistry, and that would have been because Waitman was probably flying for too many marks, and Ugle-Hagan's new to their system.
Norton's absence for that game, which ultimately created the space for Jamarra Ugle-Hagan. To what degree do you apportion the loss to the Swans?
A large portion because the back line just dominated the Western Bulldogs. So along with Bontempelli, Norton's obviously their most important player.
Yep, so getting back and everything's okay.
I think they'll be fine. I still think, for me, they're just about premiership favourites still for me.
Yep. Robert Harvey, in his caretaker status as coach of Collingwood, got his first win. It came on the back of a 7-1 last quarter, and it wasn't just the scoreboard when it came to the goals kicked, Lordo, that were demoralising reading for the Richmond team.
Yeah, quarter of the season just about for Collingwood, and look at that handball receives. They just ran over the top of Richmond, 7-1. They smashed them on the outside, they smashed them on the inside, and look at the scoreboard. So they're 20 points down 3 minutes into the last quarter. Chol, it's a real issue for them when Nankervis doesn't play. Look at Grundy and Darcy Cameron were just too big and powerful for Chol, so he shouldn't really be a number 1 ruckman. That's hurting them around the ball. And Yeah, just the run, the carry, the movement. It had them scrambling. Even Grimes. He couldn't have done any more, Grimes, but he was exposed to this ball movement that coming in.
This is Jordan De Goey of 2018 too, Lotto.
Yeah.
Late 2018, even early 2019, that we haven't seen much of since. But this is why he was in the conversation at that stage for being the best player in the comp.
He's had some huge games this year. He's just lacking.
His last three been good.
He has been big. It's just lacking the consistency of what the champions do have week in and week out. Even Sydney Stack, he leaves Josh Thomas too early. Thomas kicks the goal. So if alarm bells weren't ringing at Punt Road, they would be now. I think they still thought going into that game that they could turn things around, but I wouldn't have thought so now. The reality has hit how badly they're going.
This is where they're situated now, Lordo, sitting 12th with some teams that have had some really bad headlines around them throughout the course of this season above them.
They're not a great percentage. They're now a game out. The West Coast Eagles will win tonight against North Melbourne, so that'll jump another 4 points ahead. So the Dockers spot is probably what everyone is chasing in that top 8.
They've lost 4 in a row now, and it goes back to that last 8 to 10 minutes of the game against West Coast, just before the bye in round 13. What's happened since that moment, Lordo? Because losses have then followed to St Kilda, where they only kicked 2 goals. Yeah. They then lost to Gold Coast and then obviously yesterday to Collingwood. Yeah,
I think they're not getting any cohesion within the group. They're having a lot of players come in and out. Their best players aren't performing. Like Trent Cotchin and the like aren't going that well. And a lot of youth is being exposed. And I think the aura's gone. So everyone believes they can beat them. And Robert Harvey said at three-quarter time, we can win this, we're finishing games really well, all those sorts of things.
Once that goes, you're done, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And you can come crashing down in a massive heap, like we've seen Hawthorn and like we've seen Brisbane, and I think it's coming for the Tigers.
So again, you don't know, no one knows, but do you think they'll get to the 8 to at least have a
No, I think they'll miss
the finals as well as miss the premiership.
And I think it could be a tough year for them next year as well.
One person who is so crucial to what happens at his club is Taylor Adams. We saw it again yesterday. Whenever he's fit, Lordo, he just performs, and every single contest means something to that man.
He's a player you want to play with, and there's not many who say that about, from the competition. I would love to run out with Taylor Adams, so much so that at 27 years of age, 28 next year, I'd have him the captain of the Collingwood Football Club next year. They're a better side whenever he plays. Listen to these numbers, 31 disposals, but 10 tackles, 10 clearances and a goal. And they'd love him to use the ball a little bit better at times. But, he's a heart and soul, heartbeat player for Collingwood. And they're a 4-goal better side when he plays.
Yep. The Suns got the job done, surprisingly, I think, to most of us, against the Giants, Lord. They held firm on it must be said, at a windswept Ballarat Oval. But ultimately, when you're in front, when the siren goes for the last time, it's a win that's worthy given the context of this season for them.
Yeah, I'm wrapped for them. They backed up their win against Richmond with a win against the Giants in Ballarat. And so they're 11 points down with 3 minutes to go. Rao kicks that goal. And then, yes, the Giants messed up. They just need to score that point to get it to a draw. Made some poor decisions. This one had to be punched through or brought to the ground. Mummy and Finlayson just didn't do well enough there to get that ball to ground. Jesse Hogan. And then the desperation of the Gold Coast Suns to win. It's been a great couple of weeks for them. Unheralded players in that defence really stood strong in that last quarter.
So back onto the Giants. They beat Melbourne, but they've also lost matches this year to the Gold Coast, obviously yesterday, to Hawthorn, sitting second last, and they drew a match against North Melbourne. They simply are not good enough on exposed form.
Yeah, and you just have to ask between the years. They get up for some games, they don't get up for others. And how good is that for Stewie Dew? He's been tested. I've questioned this group so many times this year about what they stand for, and will players want to stay? Well, wins like that will make players want to stay, yeah.
Now, Lordy, someone who's all over the midfielders racking up huge possessions this year is our man Nathan Brown at Sportsbet. There are some big names, Brownie, in the midfield racking up huge numbers.
There is, Damo, and a lot of people say, where's the value in football? Because you saw the Cats, I think they were $1.20 the other night, and the Brisbane Lions were $1.20, but you can't pick St Kilda. So you have a look at the disposal market. Now, Ollie Wines is the man I want to talk about. Now, the price is up the side here. This is average. This is when you go to our stats, you go to our site, and it is most disposals in Group 1. There's also Group 1 and Group 2, but all the major ball winners are in Group 1. So Ollie Wines would be in there with Boak, he'd be in there with Petrarca, Oliver if they played Melbourne. So his average is $3.42. He's done it 8 times this year, so some really good value. The other two who have done it the most have been Tom Mitchell and also Jack McRae. A little bit shorter, their prices are shorter. They're around $2.30. But if you've backed Ollie Wines every time this year, you're well in front at $3.42. So that's a little bit of value in in the disposal market. Now, this is what I want to talk about. If you do your research, Damo, and I know you love your research, this is the Sydney Swans' last 5 games, and they've been good in first quarters. Now, the first quarter total is $3.75 for the highest scoring first quarter. Now, put those scores together with the Dogs, who have only lost 1 first quarter so far this year, and this is the total yesterday. So the first quarter came out at 46. So if you do the research, Damo, it was always going to be the highest scoring first quarter, value at $3.75. They dropped off after that. So just a little bit of research for you,
Doesn't
Damo.
miss much, does he?
And I like the Group 1 analogy you're putting around those midfielders, Brownie. They're racing terminology.
Yes, it is, Damo.
Thank you, Nathan.
Good on you,
and thanks,
Damo.
as always, to you and your friends there at Sportsbet. St Kilda, 3 wins in a row now, Lordo. Yeah. It's been a really impressive turnaround since the demoralising entry to the bye period, which coincided with the controversy around Seb Ross and Tim Rembury missing and a few other issues going on at the club. But they've come out of it with wins against Richmond, Collingwood and now Brisbane.
Brett Ratton said this was their best win of the season because they've gone to Metricon Stadium and they applied that much pressure on the Lions. We saw the panic in the Lions, so much so that on the turnover, they're at 6s and 7s. They were all over the shop, and we just see here pressure on the ball carrier. I think Luke Dunstan has been significant in this, bringing him back into the team. They've got a toughness around Jack Steele. We see Dan Butler's improved his pressure ratings, and they're just seeing hack balls out of Brisbane's defence, and then on the rebound, they're just being punished with youngsters like Burns coming into the team and doing some damage as well. So, hey, they broke Brisbane late, though. Brisbane just had nothing. They were opened up to the point where it's their worst quarter of the season. So, sensational win by the Saints.
I love redemption or turnarounds within seasons, Lordo. Max King is having one, as the Saints, his team is as well. 1 goal 5 he kicked against Geelong some weeks ago. In the 3 games that they've now won since the bye, he's managed to kick 9 goals, and he's doing it with some confidence, Lordo, that was not there in the early stages of this year.
Yeah, you're spot on. He's a very resilient young man, and we saw him after he kicked 1 goal 5 against Geelong. He had his head in his hands. He was distraught, and he's turned it around. As I said, he just keeps working extremely hard, and I think his kicking technique, his marking has all improved. And we see since the bye, when after he kicked 1-5 and was really struggling, he's had 9 set shots, 7 goal 1 and 1 out in the full.
Well, what have you noticed? You've kicked 926 goals in AFL football. What have you noticed?
What I've noticed is he's more compact. So we used to see his shoulders going right back. It's a short run up, and see his shoulders are straight up and down. There's no more leaning back on the ball. He's over the ball. His momentum is coming through it much better. So congratulations to Ruffy and Kingy for doing the work, because he's turned it around in season.
Yep. Just quickly, Eric Hipwood out for the year with an ACL. Suspected that to be the case. We'll get confirmation today at some stage of that. Joe Danaher, does he need to change his role for the Lions in order to cover for that?
Yeah, you're probably right. I think he won't spend as much time in the ruck, and he needs to spend more time at full forward now.
Yep. The Demons got their season back on track. And I say back on track because they had a loss the previous week, but they toyed with Port Adelaide to a point, Lotto.
I love this win because you go to Adelaide Oval, and I used to find Adelaide the most intimidating place to play and try and win. How animated their supporters were, and you just see they cause turnovers through their pressure. You want to take the crowd out of this. You want to silence them. You see Motlop fumbling. I know Fritsch fumbles here as well, but they were just, the big names came to play. Petrarca, Oliver.
Cozzy was back to form.
Cozzy was back to his best, and we'll talk about Ben Brown shortly, just what it did for the structure and what it did for Tom McDonald. But this from Petrarca, it's why he's a superstar. It's why maybe he'll go past Dusty Martin in the next 12 months with where he's at in his age and demographic. Doing things like this,
and even this,
sensational.
The pick-up here, Lordo, they're not just the pick-up, but they then kick the goal just before or halfway through the second quarter, which helped set the momentum.
Not many mids kick goals, and he kicked 3 to go with his 30 disposals. So one of the individual performances of the season.
You mentioned Tom McDonald. He's been really good now, hasn't he, this year? He had a couple of quiet patches, but so too have his teammates. But with Ben Brown back in the team, he was able to be a little bit closer to goal than he had been. And it's no coincidence, I think, Lordo, that he had a good game with Brown in there.
Yeah, I thought Ben did a lot for them structurally. So everyone will look at Ben Brown's stats and say he didn't do a lot. But look at where McDonald is marking the football. It's in spots you want him to be. So you see this one here, he snapped. So I thought it made Pickett better. It made McDonald better. And Luke Jackson and Gawn don't have to do as much forward work. So they can rest on the bench after they do their ruck work. So, yeah, great win by the D's.
We say it every week, same old, or seemingly every week, about Carlton Footy Club. And, look, they were OK against Geelong, but that is the story of Carlton in recent times. They're OK without ever getting a win against a team better than them. And Look, they've only got themselves to blame, Lotto, with disposal like that and decisions that you're about to see.
Well, Geelong have only lost one from about their last 10, and it was Brisbane Lions who picked them apart through the corridor. We highlighted it on this show, Access All Areas, so you've got to use the ball really well because Tom Stewart, Henderson, Henry, they're just such smart players, whereas Carlton couldn't punish them. So in the end, it was 18 more inside 50s for Geelong, and I thought their system stood up strong. And it's ball use like this. Look at Stewart. He just eats those for breakfast. So, yeah, and then this one's just, he just got the ball dropped wrong.
That happens at times. I mean, that's not necessarily reflective of Stocker's season. But Lotto, do they butcher the footy more than any other team in the comp?
Well, they're 17th for disposal efficiency, so it's been an issue for a number of years, and they take the game on, so that's why they get punished. I just want to say how good Walsh was, though, and Jacob Wiedering's job on Tom Hawkins. So they've got outstanding individuals. They just haven't got it quite right as a team yet. And
from that shoddy ball use, we go to the Dockers, who were really, really clean against the Hawks, Lotto, for the first time, and you pointed this out yourself over the course of the weekend, that Justin Longmuir has got a team that he coaches to 100 points.
Yeah, and you'd love to be Lobb. Yeah, so they scored their first 100-point game under Longmuir, and you'd love to be Rory Lobb in this game. Look at this passing. So you got Fife, who used it better on the weekend. Sarong is elite by foot. This one from Brayshaw. So they get the ball back, but it goes to Chera this time. So 4 or 5 elite ball users, and then we go to the best of them all, David Mundy. The best. He just does not panic, David Mundy. He just never panics and he waits the ball beautifully. So he doesn't try and bullet the pass.
And he's still got the anticipation at his age and stage.
Oh, yeah, look at this. He's just like a gazelle, just gliding through and hits Tracy this time lace out. So that was outstanding from the Dockers on the weekend.
Essendon did a number on Adelaide, and their backline, Lordo, which has had its issues with injury and availability, and also just a sequence of matches together, it's coming together quite nicely right now. I mean, that man there, Laverty, you've got Redmond, you've got last year's best and fairest winner Ridley, Hines come into the mix, Stewart's playing a role.
Yeah, it's a new backline that's been put together by Ben Rutten, but they're gelling quicker than I would have thought. Ridley won a best and fairest at his 26th game, so he just keeps going from strength to strength. Redmond struggled with the hub, he admitted that. He's back to his best 11 marks on the weekend. James Stewart, I think he's got better. With Hurley going out, it was a late call to send Stewart back, but yeah, I think it's a real growth area for the Bombers.
It was a good day for the Swans supporters at Marvel Stadium yesterday, Lordo, except for this man and maybe his mate. Hayward kicks a goal here to pretty much frank the victory, and he nearly, could have been dangerous, but not just has he gone down, his mates sort of gone down with him.
Yeah, they were pretty excited, the Swans fans, beside themselves with what they were seeing.
Didn't fall as hard, though, and he didn't come from as great a height as Paul Puopolo in the Sandford, Lordo, great Hawthorn player, still being able to do this at this stage of his career.
I love seeing this, that ex-AFL champions or premiership players going back and playing at this level of football. So he's playing for Norwood. Paul Puopolo against Port Adelaide just sits on head, so hasn't lost anything in retirement.
Lordo, thank you as always. The completion of round 17 comes tonight. Eagles playing North Melbourne. Stay with afl.com.au for all the fallout from that game, and we'll be back next week, same time, for Access All Areas.